Swept again. Bubba got burned, and Oneil Cruz is still swinging like he's trying to chop down a tree. Let's talk about the Pirates' latest spiral on Locked On Pirates.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. I'm your host, Gary Morgan. Today we're breaking down the latest sweep at the hands of the Brewers, what it says about this team, and how it sets the stage for Bubba Chandler's rough debut. We'll also wrap up with a look at Oneil Cruz's continued struggles and what the Pirates can realistically do about it. Before we do, though, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So the Brewers came in and done swept the Buccos. Pirates were swept in a 3-game series by the Brewers, capped off by this very distasteful 10-2 loss on Sunday, while the Steelers were in a dogfight over in New Jersey, which if you haven't talked to anyone about it yet or listened to anyone yet, get your butt over to Locked On Steelers and listen to what Chris Carter has to say. Sorry. Shameless plug. But Andrew Vaughn had a 4-hit game. Jacob Mizorowski, he was dominant. 7 innings pitched, 8 Ks, 1 earned run. This is a bounce back for him. He's really been struggling recently, too. His ERA coming into this game was over 8. I was actually using him as an example of, why you shouldn't get too down on a guy like Bubba Chandler. And Bubba's performance being his first start, I thought kind of warranted having its own segment. So I'm going to hold off most of my comments on how his start went until segment 2. The Pirates managed just 2 runs, one from Lever Peguero and another from Cam Devaney. And it was funny, even his double, he slipped out of the box. And everything the Pirates did, even positive, had some kind of a tinge of silliness to it today. It wasn't going for them, or yesterday. This marks the 4th time the Pirates have been swept in 2025. The 2nd time by the Brewers. The 2nd time in a row by the Brewers. 2nd time that we've had a series with the Brewers and they have been swept. That's not fun. Overall, the Pirates have been involved in 11 series sweeps. 7 sweeps of opponents. 4 times the Pirates have been swept. 2 of those times, the sweep actually came right after the Pirates just got done sweeping someone else. We just saw that here. We swept the Dodgers, and then here's this. How many times have we seen this team just Jekyll and Hyde? It's crazy. Think about how really and truly good they looked at just about every facet of the game facing the Los Angeles Dodgers, who admittedly are in a funk. But the Brewers aren't really playing the best they've played either. They came into this pretty pedestrian, 5-5. They've got a lot of injury issues going on right now. They're trying to rest Christian Yelich, so they're not even playing their best healthy lineup right now. Mizorowski, I said, had been struggling. Pirates were good medicine for that. No, there's something to this. 11 sweeps is a lot. It really is. And especially when it's in both directions, it really speaks to a team that there must be something to this scouting where they're breaking it up by series. A team should not look this different from series to series. And that's kind of what I can't get past. I mean, sure, you will run into a hot team and they're going to embarrass you. It's going to happen. No doubt. I'm not here to tell you that's never the case. I'm just saying, I'm watching all season long, and I see this team. They look like everything's kind of put together. they're taking a really good opposite field approach for a stretch of 2-3 games against really talented arms, and it's paying off for them, and they're producing runs. They're being opportunistic about it. They're making the unselfish play. They're just doing a lot of things the right way, and you start feeling like, man, they're turning a corner. And then at least on 2 occasions this year, and I'm sure there's been others in which they weren't sweeps, but just a generally good series followed by a generally poor series. There's some kind of a switch with this team that just, and it's a Jekyll Hyde thing. They looked almost completely disinterested this entire Brewers series. I thought Mitch Keller pitched a heck of a ball game the other night. Saturday night, it was one of his better performances. Really gave up 2 runs. Yeah, they could have won that game. They could have lost that game. They didn't get boat raced in it, but they also didn't hit, I think, more than 1 or 2 balls hard all night long. That's not competitive. They weren't taking competitive at bats. Way too many strikeouts. And Oneil Cruz is a guy we're going to highlight later on in the show. And he gets right criticism. He deserves it. But the whole lineup gets like that. I don't know what's going on with conditioning, perhaps, but there seems to be a real wearing down of most players right now. You can almost just sense that they're tired. And maybe that's just kind of the nature of being out of it. It starts to get a little bit harder to be as present and up to the standard you need to be to play a competitive baseball game once you're out of it. I suppose that could be, but you'd think a lot of these guys are playing for a spot. I just don't see a whole lot of it. I'll be real, a guy that they're barely playing right now. And this doesn't mean that I'm saying he has to be playing. Okay. I'm just saying Liover Peguero is a guy that today he did a couple decent things. All right. He did all right. I'm not saying again that he's the right choice or anything, but he's one of the very few guys right now that when he does something, there's a little bit of a spark to him. I mean, he gets a little excited. He's happy to have produced. Nick Gonzalez is like that right now. Jared Triolo seems like that right now. Brian Reynolds is kind of coming back to that. He's been really, really good for over a month now, but you got to find a way to kind of be okay with expressing that you're into the game even when you're struggling. This team has an awful lot of likable players when things are going well. When things aren't going well, they quite possibly have the worst body language of any team in professional sports. I mean, they will just the faces they make at the cameras and the umpires and each other, and just the indifference they show at times, when they get into certain situations, just almost the slumping of the shoulders, the dragging of the bats, the slow lifting of the glove to make a catch, just all of that stuff in a series like this against Milwaukee. It's all you see, and you just absorb it. You feel it. Everything you watch is tainted with it. There's just an overall apathy to the team. And it's so mind-boggling when you put it side by side with what they just did to the Dodgers. Because I said the Dodgers are struggling, right? But that is not a bad Dodgers team, and the Pirates made them look like, non-competitive at times. Where was that? Where's any of that fight? Where's any of that amping up for the competition? The Brewers have the best record in baseball. You can't sell me that you got up for the Dodgers but can't get up for the Brewers. They've got to balance things on this team. And if Don Kelly stays, this is a roller coaster I want the hell off of. I want some consistency from series to series. I want to see you carry things through for a few. I don't like that you can turn on a dime and look like a different team. 3-game set to 3-game set. That's not healthy. And I don't know what it says, but I can't imagine that it says anything I want to repeat in public, or especially in front of kids. When we come back, let's dive into Bubba's performance. That alone was important from yesterday. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data, visuals, get smart categorization for your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. It helps organize, especially streaming apps. There are so many of them, and they all have different times of the month where the money comes out, and they'll increase the prices on you without notifying you necessarily, or if they do, it's in an email you ignored. Monarch really helps with all this stuff. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. Hey, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Give me a like. Drop me a comment. Bubba Chandler's first MLB start was certainly not what you draw up, okay? Before I get into this, I just want to say right off the top, this was not a disaster. This is not a nightmare. This isn't the end of the world. You shouldn't know really anything that you can run around and shout from the rooftops about any more from this than the 8 scoreless innings that he had thrown in relief to have his 2 wins and a save. Okay? Like, you don't really have to judge him that quickly. You're still at this point looking for the top of the mountain as far as what his talent says he could be, not what you think he is currently. What you hope he is currently is a major league arm. And I think he's shown you enough to know that he is a major league arm. But he's had these moments in the minors. So this line actually is, eerily familiar to a few of them that he was putting down there in AAA pretty routinely since the All-Star break. Actually, it's one of the reasons that I think it took so long for him to get called up in the first place. They had planned on bringing him up earlier than this. It just wasn't gonna happen when he was laying down performances like this. Not every time out, but routinely enough that you at least had to be a little gun shy about it. Chandler's line 2.2 innings today. Or yesterday, I'm sorry. 9 hits, 9 earned runs, 3 walks, only 3 Ks, which ought to tell you something about how Bubba felt. And his ERA jumped from a 2.25 to a 7.36. So that old guy on Facebook that likes to comment on everything is now officially in the Bubba Stinks camp. That 7.36 ERA will not do. You must DFA him. You can hear it right now. You can just see him typing from the nursing home chair. But this too shall pass, my friends. This was a learning moment for Bubba, and an important one that, it's the only benefit you really get as a bad team. You've been disqualified from the playoffs. Okay, maybe not statistically yet, but it's coming, and it's close, and what is the truth. They're playing in games that, quite frankly, matter more for 2026 than they do this year. And that's exactly what you want to have happen. You want to test these kids now. A guy like Bubba, this is part of him too. This is part of Bubba. He's got command issues that crop up every once in a while. When he doesn't, he looks an awful lot like the way he introduced himself to you as a major leaguer. When he does, right now, he looks a lot more like this. So when a major league staff, including Strom, who had a nice talk with him after he came out of that game, the goal now is to kind of get him to understand, look, it doesn't have to be so all or nothing. All right? You don't have to lose everything because you can't find one thing. I think Bubba's a guy where things start to cascade on him. He starts losing the command of the fastball and not being able to pinpoint that exactly where he wants it, and then everything else follows suit. It's almost like if he doesn't have that home base to come back to, well, then everything else doesn't have the right starting point. This is something they'll be able to teach him. It's something that he'll grow into. It's something that, like, we've watched how many pitchers struggle with. Mitch Keller took years to do this. And I'm not saying that Bubba is destined to be the same, 3-year project that Mitch Keller is, or was. Bubba could come back next year and never have another game like this ever again. All right? But it's just not what we've become accustomed to. I mean, even if you look at somebody like Braxton Ashcraft, you haven't seen a major blow up yet, right? I mean, like, he's been pretty okay. Mike Burrows has had a couple games that have gotten out of hand a little bit, but he's also laid down enough track of decent and kind of been held back from being pushed enough that you didn't get to see them until pretty recently. So you probably have already accepted him as a pitcher. And there's enough record there that you can kind of fall back on and forgive an outing like this. I'm not saying that this was bound to happen today, but it was bound to happen. And there's a couple reasons why the Brewers in particular are just a brutal matchup for somebody like him. And why I think Paul Skeens ultimately, I don't want to say has trouble with the Brewers, but let's just say that the Brewers take more work for Paul. I mean, Paul's successful still because he's Paul, but he works harder too against them. The Brewers are a brilliant team as far as how they approach velocity. They wait for it up and they intentionally approach poking it to right field. They use the velocity against the pitcher. I can't even tell you how many 3/4 swings I saw against Paul Skeens and Bubba Chandler against that heat. It's the approach they take. And it doesn't work all the time, but it gets them an awful lot of those pesky little, base hits and everything. And then the lefties come up and the lefties take the bigger swings and the bigger attempts to get through at these guys, and they're successful. Sometimes they're not, but the Brewers just have a much better approach to guys like this than, say, the Pirates, who flailed against Mizorowski, right? I mean, they see that velocity and they build their entire approach on that velocity, and instead of waiting for it to do something, they're constantly trying to catch up with it. They're trying to catch up with it and hit it where they want to hit it, which is back through the box. I mean, nobody's going up there trying to pull it down the third base line, but they're trying to hit it right back where it came from. That's their approach against fastballs. But if you take that approach against somebody like Mizorowski, you're constantly going to have to be playing the catch-up game. What the Brewers are doing is they're identifying it's a fastball, and it ain't going to get past them because they're not trying to take a home run swing. They're trying to just use that velocity to poke a nice 85, 90 mile an hour hit to the opposite field. It's an unselfish approach that just says next man up. It's what they do. It's a type of hitter that Bubba Chandler's going to have to learn to get out. It's his arsenal is built to get the guy that doesn't care about striking out. He's there to get you got. And when you approach a team that doesn't do that game, because they're just as fine making contact and bumping it on to the next guy. Well, that your whole arsenal doesn't work the same way. And then that's something Bubba will have to learn. And he will. He's eminently talented. But that's what becoming a major leaguer is. You have to learn how to handle all those different types of lineups. And you got to learn series to series. They're different. And the next time you face that lineup, hey, they might just try something different. And Bubba's got to understand how to fall back on all those things. It's fun. It's the only benefit of having a bad team is that you can do this stuff pressure free. And when you think about all of the pitchers the Pirates are trying to onboard right now, maybe it's not the worst thing that they happen to be in that situation. It sucks how they got here. You know, I wish they had tried and fallen into this, but got here somehow, and yet we were never going to avoid having to onboard all these pitchers. Might as well use the time. And I kind of like what they're doing with Bubba, you know, giving him a start. I hope they give him a couple more. Going back to Mike Burrows after they kind of had him come out of the bullpen last time. I like that. He'll be opening the next series for the Pirates. So they're keeping them all engaged. They're juggling all the pie plates right now and not dropping them quite yet. But these types of performances are going to happen, and I just think that it's important to know that you don't have to make a decision about these prospects from 2, 3, 4 outings. You don't have to make a decision about prospects from 10, 20, 30 at bats. There's thresholds where it starts to matter. You start to really be able to identify what a guy has and doesn't have, what he really needs to work on. I can tell you a few things that I think I see in Bubba, but honestly, I think I'm better served waiting until I get to the end of the season, see what he's laid out in whole, and then we'll go through it. But for right now, kind of just embrace the fact that he's learning. These are his training wheels. He's going to get punched in the mouth sometimes, and every once in a while he's going to come out and shove, and you're going to wonder why he can't do it, or you're going to mistake the Brewers for, you know, the 27 Yankees. That's your prerogative. You take it in whatever direction you want to. When we come back, I want to talk about Oneil Cruz. He has been slumping, and I might be being nice by calling it a slump at this point. It's really a tale of two seasons. Need a boost to power through the day without reaching for another cup of coffee or an energy drink? That's where Zippix caffeine toothpicks come in. Instead of the crash you get from sugary drinks, Zippix gives you a clean, convenient burst of caffeine anytime, anywhere. And if you're looking for that nicotine satisfaction instead, they've got Zippix nicotine toothpicks as well. They're pocket-sized and discreet, so you can take them anywhere. Great for the airplane. Great for the airplane. Ready to try them? Go to ZipixToothpicks.com and use promo code LOCKEDON for 10% off your first order. That's ZipixToothpicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Zippix Toothpicks, energy and focus anytime you need it. Oh, guys, Oneil Cruz today, I'm watching him. I just thought to myself, I have to make him a segment on the podcast. I just have to. And I don't want to. I'd rather be talking about something else, or the growth of some young kid, or some hot prospect that has just cropped up in the last couple days here that I'm going to focus on soon. I wanted to make it a positive segment, but I just can't get past it. 4 more strikeouts against the Brewers, 171 average, a 267 on base percentage, and a 305 slug in his last 30 games. His 37 strikeouts in his last 105 at bats. Somehow he still managed 17 RBI in that same stretch, which is wild given the lack of contact. Currently leads MLB in strikeouts. And the Pirates really have no choice but to keep playing him. His ceiling is just still too high. And they need to hope whatever's wrong gets resolved in the offseason. Whether it's mechanical or mental or something else, Cruz is too important to this rebuild to just give up on. And I mean, I'm sorry if I triggered you with the word rebuild, and you're one of those people that don't believe we ever started a rebuild and are still questioning the moon landing. I understand. Listen, Oneil Cruz has been very disappointing in this second half. And I'm starting to wonder if we aren't going to find out that, well, let's put this way. I'm wondering if we're going to find out, or if we're going to have leaked to us that there's something going on that he's kind of fighting through, like, I don't know, elbow strain, or lower back, or neck stiffness. And I don't mean an injury so that he can quit playing the rest of the year. I mean an injury to try to help explain what the hell happened to him in the second half of the season. I wouldn't be shocked if the team would want to do something like that in an effort to run a little bit of cover for him. You know what I mean? And I'm not even saying that it's untrue. Maybe there really is something going on with him, but he's playing like a guy that, I'll be kind, I hope something is. Because what I see right now is somebody that quite literally looks like they could not care less about what is going on at the plate. The last at bat I watched, it turned my stomach. To be honest with you, it just turned my stomach. I mean, there was a pitch that right on the inside corner, fastball, took it just like he takes every single one of them. Then there's a curveball down and away. He takes a big hack at that, doesn't have a prayer of hitting it. It's at least 8-10 inches off the plate. I mean, this one never threatened the strike zone. This was gone. And then, ultimately strikes out on a really, really lazy check swing on a pitch that you probably shouldn't have even attempted to swing at in the first place. So far out of the zone that I'm shocked it would even prompt a check swing. And then, you didn't look like you even really tried to hold yourself back. I mean, like, it was almost like, please, can I go sit down? Like, were you ever coaching a kid like in Little League or Pony League or whatever, and you can tell like they've had one of those days and they don't really want to be there. There's something going on at home. You don't know what's going on, but for whatever reason, that baseball field is not the place they want to be. And they just start doing things like that where you can just tell they're checked out, going through the motions. Let's get this day over with. I hope I'm wrong, but that's what I feel like I'm reading on Oneil Cruz. And I can't fathom why any player going into their first arbitration year would act in such a fashion, unless it is something like perhaps an injury that he's able to play through. I mean, let's be real here. We're giving Brian Reynolds a little bit of cover for some of that shoulder stuff, right? There was a whole month there where he had to do nothing but DH with the shoulder issues. And then even when he started playing the field again, it wasn't 100%. It was just to the point where they didn't feel like he was going to injure it any further by playing. That doesn't mean it stopped bothering him. So you give him a little bit of cover for that, even as we criticize his overall numbers this season and note that they have to get better and everything. I'd love to have that same grace with Oneil Cruz because he legitimately hit in the first half. I mean, listen, he's got 19 home runs. He didn't just not hit those. So there's good and bad with Oneil Cruz. My fear with Oneil Cruz, and I hope you can follow my train of thought on this with him, but I've never seen Oneil Cruz play well when he wasn't running around smiling and hot dogging and just being a big kid. And I think players like that are great pieces on winning teams. And I think that's when they really come out of their shell and play their best because the baseball's fun. And it's a perfect environment for a guy that thrives on fun. Oneil Cruz is best at the game of baseball when he's having fun playing the game of baseball. And I think part of that, or at least one of those ingredients he might require, is that team is winning. And the Pittsburgh Pirates, sadly, need him to be part of the reason this team is winning. Not a passenger that comes along happily and plays his best because the team's already there. At the end of the day, that ultimately might be the story of Oneil Cruz. He's a good player as long as he's surrounded by good players and the team is playing good. But a guy like Oneil Cruz, this team has to have as part of the solution. You got to be part of the reason that you got to create your own dream world, my friend. It may very well be that Oneil Cruz is the type of player that goes to another team that's already winning and then he really performs. I would love it to be here, but I just don't see it happening unless he's a big part of it, which would mean he's changed something that unlocks that. I haven't seen that yet. I haven't seen that capability. I'd love to. This doesn't look mechanical, though. He still looks like he can swing. It just doesn't look like he cares about how he does it. That's it for today's episode. The Brewers keep sweeping us, and it stings. Bubba's debut was a reality check, and Cruz continues to be a puzzle. But if there's a silver lining, it's that these games now serve as auditions, and that's valuable. Check out my friend Chris Carter over at Locked On Steelers, and I'll catch you next time on Locked On Pirates.